When I looked out at the empty row of seats with my family's name taped across them, I realized I had been preparing my whole life for a moment no one bothered to show up for. The auditorium smelled like fresh flowers and floor polish, that sharp, clean scent hospitals always have, even in places meant for celebration. My hands were steady in my lap, fingers folded the way I'd taught myself to sit during long exams. Calm body, quiet mind. Around me, other graduates whispered and laughed, adjusting their caps, craning their necks for familiar faces. Every few seconds, someone waved. A mother dabbed her eyes. A father raised his phone too high and got shushed. I kept checking my watch. Not because I was impatient, because part of me still believed they'd rush in late, breathless, apologetic, holding balloons and excuses. Traffic.
Parking.
Something, anything that would explain why my parents, my aunts, my cousins, my brother were not there. When the dean stepped up to the podium and tapped the microphone, the sound echoed like a small crack in glass. That's when it finally settled in my chest. Heavy. Final. They weren't coming. I swallowed and stared straight ahead as the ceremony began, my smile carefully practiced, my spine straight. Years of training had taught me how to stand inside disappointment without letting it show on my face. Medicine will do that to you. Life, too. But inside, something old and tender was waking up. Growing up, I was the responsible one. The quiet achiever. The child who didn't need reminding. While other kids needed supervision, I needed permission to stop.
To rest.
To be average for a day. Our house was always loud, always busy. The television blared even during dinner. My mother cooked by instinct, never measurements, tasting with a wooden spoon she'd had since before I was born. My father believed silence meant something was wrong, so he filled every gap with commentary, news, neighbors, politics, advice no one asked for. And then there was my younger brother, Samir. Samir was the sun. Everyone revolved around him, without realizing they were moving. He had a way of walking into a room and shifting the air, like laughter was already waiting for him. Teachers forgave him. Relatives bragged about him. When he struggled, it was a tragedy. When I struggled, it was a phase. I learned early that love in our family was loud, and the quiet ones had to earn it. So I earned it the only way I knew how, by excelling. I studied while others slept. I took extra shifts. I volunteered, shadowed, applied, failed, reapplied. Medical school wasn't a dream. It was a decision, made carefully, stubbornly, with a full understanding that it would cost me time, relationships, and softness. I accepted that trade the way you accept a difficult diagnosis. Eyes open, jaw set. Through it all, my family told everyone, she's going to be a doctor, the way you say someone is going to the store. Simple.
Certain.
Almost casual. They never asked how hard it was. Still, I believed, quietly, foolishly, that graduation would be different. That this one day would pull them out of their routines and into mine. I sent invitations early. I reminded them gently. I rearranged the seating chart twice. My mother had hugged me the week before and said, "We'll all be there. This is your big moment." I held on to that sentence like a prescription. The first clue that something was wrong came 3 days before the ceremony. I was in my tiny apartment kitchen, the kettle screaming on the stove while I stared at a message from my cousin Lena. It was a photo. Samir in a gold-trimmed jacket, grinning beside a banner that read Happy 30th. Balloons crowded the ceiling. "Big party this weekend." She'd written, "Can't believe he's finally 30. I felt a small flicker of confusion. My graduation was this weekend. I typed back, "Looks fun. When is it?" The dots appeared, disappeared.
Then, Saturday. Why?
Saturday. The same day.
Same time.
I told myself it was nothing. Families are big, plans overlap. Surely they'd move it. Or split their time. Or, at the very least, tell me. I called my mother. She didn't pick up. I called my father. Straight to voicemail. That night, Samir sent me a voice note. His voice was cheerful, breezy.
"Hey, sis.
Just wanted to make sure you're good. Big week, huh?" I waited for the rest. For the explanation. It never came. "Yeah," I said when I called him back. Big week. There was a pause. A soft exhale. Listen, he began, and my stomach tightened. The party's kind of already set. People are coming from out of town. You know how Mom gets. I looked at the chipped paint on my kitchen wall. My graduation is set too. I know, he said quickly. But you'll understand, right? You're not really into parties anyway. The way he said understand felt like a door closing gently, politely in my face. I'll call you later, I said, because I needed my voice to stay steady. Now, sitting in that auditorium, I replayed that conversation like a bad diagnosis delivered too softly. Around me, names were being called. Applause rose and fell in waves. When they called my name, I stood. My heels clicked against the stage floor. The lights were bright enough to blur the crowd, but I could still see the empty seats.
Still feel them.
I accepted my diploma with both hands, nodded, smiled. For the camera, for the memory, for the girl I used to be. As I walked back to my seat, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I didn't look at it until the ceremony ended, until the caps were tossed and the hugs began. One message. From my mother. So sorry, sweetheart. We'll celebrate later. Enjoy your day. I stared at the screen until the letters swam. Later. That word followed me all the way home. I didn't cry that night. I folded my gown carefully. I placed my diploma on the table. I washed my hands longer than necessary, watching the water run over skin that had learned to heal others while quietly ignoring itself. Something inside me was shifting. Not breaking, settling. And I didn't yet know how far that shift would take me.